Balance in Hertfordshire, and today I am going to be talking about mental health, especially mental health for children, the benefits of exercise, and the state of some stuff that's happening right here in my local community, Potter's Bar. So first of all, why am I doing this video today? I'm doing this video today because last night I saw a TV program about a local, the Potter's Bar Clinic, which is a clinic that's there to help supposedly support mental health of children and teenagers, I think. And they were saying how they're not getting enough care, that the workers aren't actually looking after people who are basically on suicide watch. They're meant to be attentive and awake and actually looking after and making sure these people don't commit suicide. And they weren't doing an adequate job. Anyway, but this really then got me thinking, it's like, well, what is the state of mental health care and in children? Especially given the news that released by the WHO, the World Health Organization, I think last week, on the fact that 4 out of 5 children are not getting enough exercise. 4 out of 5. And what is enough exercise? Well, pretty much just at least an hour a day of walking or dancing or anything of cycling. Even an hour a day of walking makes a big difference. And we know in adults that people with depressive illnesses, which of course can then lead to suicidal thoughts as well, is that even if there's a familial tendency to depression, just exercising 35 minutes a day, 2 hours a week, basically negates the genetic risk. And for every additional 4 hours of exercise that people do, there's a 17% decrease in the risk of more or further depression, of depression coming back. But we also know that exercise prevents against all kinds of cognitive decline. Exercise prevents against dementia, Alzheimer's, Parkinson's, panic attacks, panic disorders. Exercise is needed for the brain to work properly. In chiropractic circles, Professor Roger Sperry, who won a Nobel Prize for his work on brain health, famously said, the spine is the windmill of the brain. He basically talks about how movement electrifies and energizes the brain to allow the brain cells to work properly, and that a huge amount of that input comes from the spine. So here's the brain, poorly drawn, and here's the spinal cord, and here's the spine. And so if you have a stiff spine, if you're not moving your spine because you're not exercising, you're not walking, you're sat at a desk all day, the brain is not going to light up. So therefore, it won't be as healthy. It's going to be much more depressed, much more likely to have other mental dysfunctions. But you see, exercise is just one thing. And how many psychiatrists actually recommend exercise, actually really tell people how important exercise is, not just because exercise is good for your cardiovascular system, but it's amazingly important for the brain just to work normally. We've had patients come here and their depression lifts once their spine is working better. But this is just one thing, because your brain, it's made of, like everything, is made of lots of cells. Okay, so here's a brain cell. It could also be an eye cell or a leg cell or a muscle cell, whatever. Okay, now your cells they need some kind of neural input. Okay, in the brain especially, they need electrical input that comes through movement, that comes up through the nervous system. But basically, cells also need all the right nutrients. Okay, so they need the nervous system to be working properly, particularly the brain. They need all the right nutrients as well. And we know that when children don't get enough of the right nutrients, they have much more violent behavior. We know that a lot of nutrients are related. If you have a lack of B vitamins, omega-3 oils, magnesium, a lot of the things we know a lot of the country are deficient in, okay, can cause problems with depression, but also anxiety, other mental conditions as well. Also, a lack of nutrients can of course cause diabetes, heart disease, cancer, the list goes on. And so we should be getting this from a good diet. But also because we know that the food today we have has got far less nutrients, probably about 1/10 of the nutrients that it did 90, 100 years ago, most people probably need a multivitamin mineral, or they need to start growing their own fresh fruits and vegetables. But there's also another problem, okay, is if your cell doesn't get rid of all the rubbish that it creates, because just like a car creates exhaust fumes, so do we. And if a cell can't get rid of the rubbish, toxins build up in here. And could you imagine what would happen to the inside of a car if you put a potato in the exhaust? You know, things back up. It's the same in the human body, same in the brain. And the cells can't get rid of crud and rubbish if it doesn't get enough nutrients coming in for actually to supply all the things it needs to get rid of it. But also we now know around the world that environmental toxins are adding not just to lung disease, but massively to heart disease, but also to brain problems, mental health problems as well. And so the only way to really, really look after these children isn't to put them on drugs, because, by the way, all drugs actually affect the cells and create more crud and rubbish, okay? But to really look after all these children, we've got to actually start really educating parents, doctors, psychologists, psychiatrists about the importance of exercise, about the importance of diet, about the importance of the environment, and actually looking at ways to help remove toxins from their environment, but also to help remove more toxins from the body as well. And proper mental care isn't just about talking. It's very important that they get the support that is there. Cognitive behavioral therapy, psychologists, psychiatrists, people who are trained supposedly in mental health care, but how many of them go into diet, nutrition, exercise and toxins, which we know add to all these problems. And then stress as well. So if you know someone who has mental health problems, if you know a family that they're suffering with someone that's got lots of mental health problems, share this video with them, okay? I'm not going to have all the answers, okay? But they can find someone, they can start talking about these things. You can look these up on PubMed. You can look them up in medical journals. These things are there. We know that today that people are going to be sicker than ever because they're not exercising, they're not getting enough nutrients, and we are getting far too many toxins. You start addressing these three things on a national level, all of a sudden you're going to get people's brains working better, people's hearts working better, people's lungs working better, people working better, and you're going to take a huge load off the NHS, the mental health services. Everything is going to get easier when you tackle these three things. Yes, environmental pollution is not down to each individual, but it is, because if we make better choices, the environment will change. But each of us can do a better job at nutrition. Each of us can do a better job at exercising and moving more. And each of us can make better choices about the crud and rubbish we put in our bodies. So this is another party political broadcast on behalf of the self-health revolution. Be well.